Hey everyone. So today we have a bonus type of coffee chat with Kj Christensen. She is a pivot and performance strategist. So if you are just logging on, I'm just inviting her to the chat. And she'll be joining me soon. And we're going to be talking about pivoting and performance and some other great tidbits. Hello. I'm just waiting for Kj Christensen to jump on. And then we'll get this coffee chat going. I know she was just needing to post something first and then she was going to hop on. So I got a new mug today. I got a donut mug. Usually I have my Sip Happens mug and I decided to change it up. I have like a impromptu mug collection that I didn't even try to collect. And I figured I'd change it up to different mugs for the different coffee chats. If you're just hopping on, I'm just waiting for Kj Christensen that we're going to be chatting with today. And I don't see her yet in the chat. Hi, if you're just logging on. We're going to be chatting with pivot and performance strategist Kj Christensen today if you're just hopping on. I'm just waiting for her to show up in my chat. And luckily today I usually hit the filter button by accident when I'm trying to get these things going, and I usually have something wonky going on here. The first time I tried this, I ended up with like a Marvel thing on my head, and then last week was like this star thing. So today, successfully, I haven't added any crazy filters to my head. Yes, I have a coffee mug happening here. It's my donut mug. Oh, there she is. Okay. So, hi. Sarah says it happens. Yeah, the filters, like, they lend comedy at least. Hi.
Hey, new friend. Here, wait, let me back up. I got my big crazy hat on. Hi. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing so well. How funny is this? Let's just give a shout out to the interwebs for uno momento. The fact that you're in Toronto.
I'm like an hour from Toronto, but I always say Toronto because it's easier than trying to explain that I'm an hour.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
I totally get it. I was in LA for like 20 something years and I just moved to Laguna Beach.
Yeah.
So sometimes I still think that I'm in LA, or I'll just say that I'm in LA. So I totally get it. But how funny is this?
Mm-hmm.
For all of you who are, it's my dude. Hey, Ben. Hey, Ben. Drummond Culture. If y'all don't know him, go find him. Go follow him. Such a great story. He and I did a clubhouse last week. I'm trying to rope him into another one this week. And we're doing an IG live on Wednesday that y'all have to join us for. But again, shout out to the interwebs. You and I don't know each other.
Yeah.
But you found me because of this crazy little device, which, side note, for anyone who knows me, for years, I've been the girl like with the megaphone that's like, get off these phones. They make you so lonely. Come to a live event. Yeah. Well, then cut to COVID. Live events are not happening. But I'm so glad that you did. You found me, I think, through Ella. Yeah. She and I did an IG live. Mm-hmm. And I just love that you're in Toronto. I'm in Laguna Beach. We also, I think you and Nick connected. I don't know if he's on here yet. My Potter friend.
Yes, we did. Mm-hmm.
Right? And I know him from New Hampshire, small town New Hampshire, back in the day. Yeah. Welcome to everybody. Hi.
Kev says he thought I was going to eat my mug because I have a donut.
It's very cute. I have a very bland, boring. This is why we need Nick. Yeah. I had some like cool ones, but
I have an impromptu mug collection that somehow happened where I have like all crazy different mugs and wine glasses. So.
I love it. I love it. I wish that I had something more exciting. Hey, Laguna Beach. Ooh, hi. Yes, it is nice. I do love it. I'm not gonna lie. You'll have to come visit. Have you been to Southern California?
I haven't yet. It's on my bucket list. I haven't traveled a
Yes.
lot because I have 5 kids. So
I missed this. Okay, I did not know you have 5.
yeah,
That's
so
a lot.
4 to 16. So yeah.
Wow, mama.
Yeah.
Cheers to you.
Yeah. So
Congrats on that.
Usually local traveling if we travel. Like my husband and I, we took a trip to Mexico 2 years ago for a friend's wedding, but other than that, it's just been like traveling with like immediate family, like my parents when I was kids, to like the States and stuff. So, but we never actually made it to California. Florida, Texas, Pennsylvania, Ohio, yes.
Yes.
Chicago, New York, but yeah, never like California.
When COVID is done and we can actually like see people in 3D and hug people very close by, I would love to give you and your family some event tickets. Maybe you and your partner can come to an event and we can get them a babysitter or something. That'd be fun.
Right. Well, I can try and enlist my teenagers.
There we go. Even better. It's amazing. And Laguna is beautiful. There's so many beautiful hikes. Gorgeous coves. It looks kind of like Hawaii or like the Amalfi Coast.
James Wedmore was in Laguna. I think he moved though.
Oh, really? Oh, I don't think I even knew that. That's funny.
Yeah, I think he's my design course.
Oh, that's it. I did not know that. See, again, all the corners of the interwebs are folding together like a little, what are those things? Do you remember? I think I'm older than you. Do you remember those things where you would like fold the paper together and then you'd go like this? Yeah, and there'd be like little fortunes.
There's like little messages. Yeah.
But that's basically the internet. That's the internet right now.
Yeah.
So what do you want to deep dive on and how much time you got?
Well, I thought maybe if you could start with a little background on you, because you have like quite the background, just to introduce yourself to my people who may not know you.
Yeah. So I think that your people are kind of like my people, right? I think that there's a lot of multi-passionate, creative, entrepreneurial types. Hi, Sarah. Here's what I will say about all of us. We're an interesting bunch. And I'm so grateful for it. You know, to give you just a little quick 30-second synopsis, I had first come out to LA, 3,000 miles from a teeny tiny town in New Hampshire when I was just 19. And I was in front of the camera. I was acting. Small, you know, co-starring roles and recurring roles. A lot of stuff for MTV, NBC, stuff that you would have seen. But I was an actor. You know, my identity, my whole reason for coming out here was to pursue acting. And then a few years into it, you know, the industry was so marginalizing, so sexualizing, so trivializing. And my best friend, who happened to be my roommate, she was like an older sister type, was suddenly diagnosed with leukemia.
Oh my.
And so amidst, you know, this pursuit that more and more started to feel out of my control, out of my value system, I was simultaneously, you know, going to the hospital and seeing her fight for her life. And then I was seeing her in hospice.
That's really
and then 18 months later, she died. And I remember it was one of those pivotal moments where I thought, this doesn't make sense. She's beautiful, she's young, she's talented, she's not gotten married yet, she hasn't even finished her grad program yet, like she wants to be a therapist, like none of this is right. And I remember when she was very, very sick at the end there, I was booked for this really terrible, awful B horror movie, this like horrible B horror movie. And I was playing this dumb skater girl, this like sexy, quirky skater girl. And we were shooting in Vegas. And I kid you not, I was literally being dragged at night. It was a night shoot at like 3 a.m. through the desert.
Crazy.
By my feet, because the scene was that I was like dead at this point. It's like terrible horror movie. I'm being like dragged by my feet through the desert for like no money. I mean, it was like really bad. And I remember, there's rattlesnakes here. Like, this doesn't seem like a good idea. And why is no one concerned that there are rattlesnakes? And then 2, you know, my friend's dying. Like, what, excuse my language, but what the fuck am I doing? Right? It was just one of those moments. Like, what the hell am I doing?
Right.
And so I think once she passed, it was like within 90 days, I pivoted. And I got out of the industry and I ended up wanting to get more creative control. And I was like, I got to get behind the camera. I got to give women more body autonomy and empowerment. I got to help women feel better about themselves on camera. You know, I was recognizing that it had done such a job on my self-esteem. When I came out here, I was 19. I think I was like 103 pounds. And I was always supposed to say that I was 18. And I was always supposed to be 10 pounds lighter. And my skin was never right. And my teeth were never right. And my hair was, it was just like insatiable. Right. And so when I lost her, because of that juxtaposition, this like ridiculous story, I'm getting dragged through the desert, literally, in Vegas. And she's, you know, she's in hospice. I made that change so quickly. It was literally like 90 days. I left my agent, I left my manager, got into photography. And the reason I tell that story is because sometimes there are those moments in our lives where we're so out of alignment with who we really are and what our values are, that it's quick, right? It's like decisive action. It's like, I don't know where I fit exactly. I don't know where I belong, but I know I don't belong here. Yeah. Right. And so we make this sudden shift. Now, again, I was like 23. Yeah. I was a baby. I would have made that pivot a little differently. I would have done it a little more thoughtfully in some ways. Older. But yeah. But the other reason I tell that story is because it ended up being this theme in my life. When I look back, now I'm in my fourth decade. I've had some time to look back. When I look back at the last 2 decades of being what we call a grown-up and being a professional, creative, entrepreneurial person, I started to recognize, like, wow, this pivoting thing was a thing that happened several times. And I think in a good life, in an intentional life, that happens, right? So
kind of like me.
So tell me about that. Tell me about you.
Well, I had a huge pivot, right? Because I spent my entire, probably from like grade 7 to the end of high school, wanting to be a doctor, because my Uncle Ross was a doctor. And he got me really interested in it. Like, I would sit in the living room reading medical encyclopedias because I so wanted to be a doctor. All of my high school were geared towards wanting to be a doctor. And
so cute. So nerdy and so cute.
Basically, I ended up getting pregnant at 19, had Reese when I was 20. But during that pregnancy, I went to Michael's craft store and I started taking cake decorating as a hobby because I was bored, right? Because my plan hadn't worked out. So I needed something to do. And that ended up turning into a career. I opened my first company when I was 20, which was a cake business. We bought a house in a little town that was zoned commercial residential that I could actually block off the back of the house. And I had my studio and my commercial kitchen in the front of the house. And there was like another little bakery down the street that didn't do the same stuff that I did, because I do more like the cake boss type of stuff. And so they would always send people down to me that I could do cakes for and stuff. So that has been part of my life for like 16 years. But because I didn't plan on this, I always thought something's missing. So I've like tried out so many things on the side. Like I got certified as a Red Cross first responder. Like there's like a first responder course that I went through it. Then I got certified as an instructor for Red Cross, because that medical thing's always been in me that I wanted to do.
Totally makes sense.
So I taught for Red Cross for 2 years, and I was a PSW for them on the side of my cake business. And that's just I've like done restaurant stuff. I've done, I've been an esthetician. Like there's just so I've worn, trying to think, something's missing. And then I finally started to settle into this.
Hi, everyone.
Thing, right? And I thought, how else can I be of service to people? And like, I was sort of like a Jill of all trades, because I didn't have huge amounts of money. I was doing everything myself. So I learned marketing, I learned sales, I learned sales funnels, I learned business. So when I was 26, I opened a second business teaching email marketing, which is the thing that I used to grow my business besides social media. So I now have a cake decorating course online and a marketing course online teaching email marketing. I have a free portion that leads into a paid course that's still on my website. But something, again, was still missing. So I got offered a monthly teaching segment on Rogers TV, on daytime TV. So I did that for a year and a half. They even offered me my own show, but I didn't have time to do the whole show. We ended up filming the pilot and then nothing else after that. I've been on like Grand River Living, and I really like TV, and I really like doing drama and plays and musicals and stuff in high school. So I thought, hey, let's take an acting course. I ended up taking an acting course, and I really loved it. And I auditioned for my first role, booked the role, auditioned for my second one, booked that one, which is the TV series that's actually coming out in October.
So great.
So now I'm doing acting, I'm doing cakes, but I'm also still going to school right now, Harvard Online, for neurology.
Yeah, get it. Girl, you're so my people.
Right?
You're literally my people. I love it.
I think what I wanted to dive into you was this misconception and this thing that people get stuck in, that things have to be done a certain way. That because so-and-so said your life has to go in this direction, it has to follow this framework, where that's not the case at all. Yeah.
I love this so much. You said so many things. Hold on. I got to marinate in some of the gems that you shared. A, because I resonate with them. And B, I don't know who else on the call here. Rigel, is that right? Hi. I know that there's people that resonate with this too. And so if you're just joining, or if you're going to watch the replay afterwards, we're talking about pivoting. We're talking about how you get to be who you really are, especially if you identify, as we both do, as multi-passionate, creative, entrepreneurial, but also lifelong learners. And how do you find that intersection? How do you embrace being a Jill or Jane or Jack of all trades? And this is what I wanted to share. I have a chapter coming out. I'm co-authoring a book all about resiliency, and that's going to come out, I think, in the next few weeks here. And I opened this chapter with this confessional, and I think it's important for people to hear this. When I used to get told, and I remember somebody even left me a recommendation, I think on LinkedIn or something, calling me a Jill of all trades. And I was kind of like, ugh, right? There was a long time where I felt shame about that, or I resisted that. I was like, man, why don't I just have like my one thing? Why don't I just have that like one thing? And I think railing against that, that part of us doesn't actually serve us, right? And I think when you share with such zeal and such enthusiasm all of these different life experiences that you've gotten to have, and you talk about, because it was the same thing for me, like your first audition you booked, your second audition you booked, you're in a flow, right? Things are clicking. Part of why that's happening is because you're allowing and embracing yourself to just be yourself. Right? You're kind of loose. You're playing, right? You're not going into it desperate, like this has to be the thing. I have to book this job. If I don't book this job, I don't know who I am, and I can't pay rent, and that, right?
And I think that's how the cake thing started too. Like I wasn't looking for it. I was just doing this as a hobby, and I started to get people requesting cakes, and more so for money. And like, hey, let's register this as a business. And that's what needs to happen with some people, right? They just need to keep cycling until they figure it out. And this misconception that you have to know what you want to do with your life by the time you're 18 and go to college and this and that. And I think it's just, people need to adjust from that societal norm, right?
Yeah. And I think, again, that word misconception is so important too, as we're having this conversation about pivoting, right? A pivot, like I said, sometimes can happen suddenly at the top. Again, if you're listening to the replay or just joining us, it can happen suddenly because of a tragedy or a crisis, some chaos implodes your life, right? And you recognize, like, I don't know what's next, but it ain't this. Or I really wish that it was this. I thought that it was going to be this for forever, but for whatever reason, it has ended. Whether I wanted it to or not, whether it's just or not, it is over. And the misconception word is so key, because again, we can tie so much energy into being hung up either on what was, what should have been, how it ought to go, the plan that we had. And if we're not agile and we're not nimble and we can't keep that playful sort of lightness to us, when like the world comes to knock you on your ass, it's going to be much harder to get back up.
Yeah, that resonates with me too, because I had this idea in my brain that things had to go a certain way until I turned 30. 30 hit me hard. Like, I think I cried 3 times that day that I was 30, and the plan in my head hadn't happened, right? And it wasn't until I got past my 30th birthday and I talked to a coach of mine And she's like, no, this is your new beginning. This is when you adjust. This is when you finally fall into your framework, your way of doing things. And to get out of my head, like, this is how it has to happen because so-and-so told me that this is how it has to happen. Right?
Oh, girl. How much time do you have? How much time do you got? Because I can go down that rabbit hole real quick.
But that's what I really about today, because I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Like, so many people, like in the entertainment industry, you have to struggle to be an actor. You have to go through casting. You have to find an agent. You have to, like, you can only get auditions through casting. And that's not the case at all.
That's not true. It wasn't my experience. Yeah.
And there's so many other ways that you can get auditions. Like, I get, or even get roles. Like, sometimes you don't even audition for the production. You get offered the role because you've created a relationship with people and people know you, right?
Yes.
So
this is such an important topic, particularly right now. Again, laughing at myself, outing myself. I was pre-COVID the girl with the megaphone that was like, get off this phone. This phone's killing you. You're scroll suffering your life away. It's terrible. That is true, and it's not true. It is true if you come on these devices and you passively just like consume, right? And you're not actually contributing. You're not actually creating. Like, you're numb to the, right. If you're compare despairing, which is how they're designed, let's be honest. Let's call a spade a spade. They're designed to be addictive. I think, now as a coach and a speaker and a trainer, there's so much science and research and studies. It's not like this is a revolutionary idea, but I'll share some of the stats, and they're shocking, right? Yeah. I think we check our phones 150 times a day, just the average user. That's about like every 7 to 15 minutes. And I, for years, have had all my notifications turned off, and it drives people crazy. Like, people hate it. And yet I have my sanity, right? Because it's not dinging and buzzing at me like a slot machine all the time. But
phone alone.
Yes. Yeah. So where I used to pre-COVID just sort of threw the baby out with the bathwater, I was like, these are terrible. I now, because COVID has changed things, I can't do live events. I can't do in-person incubators and masterminds. I can't do offsite leadership retreats in the same way. We've all had to pivot. What has changed is my intentionality. So like, when I come on here, it is to have an engaged and meaningful and transparent conversation, whether that's me directly to my audience, my friends, my family, whoever's watching, right? Or it's even this experience. So like, when you talk about, it's so non-traditional now, the opportunities, whether it's to be an actor, or it's to do something entrepreneurial, or it's to write a book, or get known as a speaker, to launch a podcast, whatever it is, everything is so democratic in some ways, not in all ways, right? We certainly have to recognize unearned white privilege. We certainly have to recognize some people have much more runway financially. Some people, are in a family situation, a marital situation that gives them more stability, security. There's so many different dynamics. But certainly there is something to be said that things have become more democratic. And I think even when I was having that conversation with Ella in the IG Live that she and I did, we were talking about, are you on here because you're chasing popularity? Are you on here because you're just trying to get likes and you're just trying to like get the big numbers of followers? Or are you on here to actually engage and contribute and connect? And then her whole thing is like, and when you do that, you actually can monetize this thing, which has been so true. I've gotten some incredible clients through direct message. Hi, is it Natamelt? Natalie? Natamelt? I don't know what that is. Hi.
Her live with Ella really resonated with me, because as nice as having a huge following is, it's not the be all end all. I would rather build a community that I can help create an impact with than have 100,000 followers. You know what I mean? That don't engage me and that I'm not helping at all. Because my goal is to impact. My goal is to leave this planet better than I found it, right? And I can only do that by creating community, by creating connections with people, by talking to people. That's not me posting to 100,000 people and only like 100 like it, right? So talking right now is pivoting. So we're talking about how things in life don't necessarily go as you expected them to go, and you have every right to pivot.
And how sometimes that can be a beautiful blessing in disguise. One of my favorite movies of all time, anybody who knows me knows this. It's this little tiny film that nobody's ever seen, but it's so good. Steve Carell
Okay.
Dan Wiest.
Yeah.
So many great people in it. It's called Dan in Real Life.
Okay. Yeah.
And you got to check it out. It's this like really heartfelt kind of comedy.
Yeah.
But one of the lines is plan to be surprised.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes the most brutal things that happen in our lives. I shared one story at the top again, if you're just tuning in, losing a friend very, very young. And I've had a whole series of things you could put in the trauma category, as we all have. All 7.8 billion people of us on the planet have experienced some sort of trauma, whether it's a betrayal, whether it's a mass disappointment, right? A health crisis, a relationship ends, whatever it is. Career doesn't work out, business fails, humiliated, rejected, whatever. We've all been there, you know, childhood stuff. I think when you hold on with iron hands to trying to keep things a certain way, or trying to be on the path, or trying to fit society's standards of beauty or success or money or whatever it is, the relationship, and you don't allow yourself to plan to be surprised, you don't also open yourself up for those synchronistic moments. Like the fact that you reached out, we don't know each other at all, but we're able to very quickly build rapport because we're sort of cut of the same cloth, it seems like, right? Like we have a lot of shared skills and strengths and interests and sort of ways of being in the world. So there's just like a natural ease. But if you weren't someone who took advantage of this opportunity to come on and for free be able to contribute and create in this way and make an impact in the way that you're talking about. I always talk about the difference between, I'm not interested in influencers, I'm interested in impactors, right? That's like a big thing that I've said for a long time.
Impact in a positive way.
Yeah. But we all have influence, every single one of us, right? And so often, and certainly environment plays a huge piece in this. If you're in an environment where you're not getting any engagement, where you feel like you're dying on the vine and stuck to low to no energy, when you feel like, wow, there's just no sunshine, there is no light, no one is watering my vision, my dream, I'm not getting any acknowledgement, I'm not getting any validation, I'm not getting any inquiry, any questions, like I am just out for the count. You know, there's that other beautiful quote, when a flower doesn't bloom, you don't blame the flower, you look to the environment, right? So again, it's that combination of take advantage of the opportunity to reach out to people. So you're reaching out to me. That's all it was. It was like a quick comment, a quick direct message, and here we are. Yeah.
And that environment thing's been a big thing for me because I have the most supportive family known to mankind. Like my parents are your typical, not typical, but like you're by the book 9-to-5ers, right? My dad's now retired, but my mom's soon to retire. But they've been so supportive, even though I didn't become a 9-to-5er, they've been so supportive of my journey no matter what I've decided to tackle, right? Because they understand that it's my life and I'm the one who has to live with the decisions that I'm making, right? And I think even though I'm turning 37 in like, well, 6 weeks, I don't have to have it all figured out right now. And that's what
nor do you ever. Nor do you ever, right? The people, I mean, I don't know about you, but the authors that I resonate with the most, the big speakers that I resonate with the most, the actors, the artists, they're the ones that first raise their hand to call out the elephant in the room and be like, y'all see this? This is batshit crazy. I don't have the answer, but this, do you see this? Right? And they might be 40, they might be 50, they might be 60. There's something about the humanity that artists are able to tap into that does feel very, very distinctly different than entrepreneurial sort of markety expert land. And it's interesting that this is kind of a detour, but I think it's important. You, like me, as much as you're a creative, you're also entrepreneurial, right? You've had a business, right? And you've had different endeavors that you've been able to monetize, right? To take care of your family. And so how do you find that intersection, you know? And I think this is another pivot point too. And I think I'm even figuring this out as you say, like I'm about to be 37, you said? Yeah. Like I just turned 41, right? So I feel like I'm deepening this intersection all the time. There's a part of me that will always first and foremost be an entertainer, a performer, a speaker, that artist soul, right? Who doesn't want to have all the answers, so couldn't possibly think that she has all the answers. And then there's another part of me from coaching and training and having some expertise, at least on the modality, right? So I'm certainly not an expert on any subject or on any person, but I feel like I have expertise in how to help people strategically pivot, to how to help them strategically set up after a setback.
Yeah.
You know, so like if you're like, man, I just got knocked out, or I lost my momentum, or I don't know who I am, or I got known for the wrong thing, I built the wrong castle, I have a huge following, and oh shit, this is not what I want to be known for. This isn't my life's work. This isn't my legacy work. It doesn't have meaning. I strategically know how to help you pivot through that. Right. But that's an interesting intersection, to be able to be the artist and also be the entrepreneur, and not fall into what I can be very turned off by, that markety, I'm the expert, here's the how-to on everything. You know, that's not really my jam.
Yeah, that's another one of my, I just want to side road just for like one other second. I see so many times where actors are posting about stuff, and they're most known for their acting, right? And somebody in the comments will go, stick to acting. It's like, do you understand that they're not just actors? There is so much more person behind them than just acting. So for them to have an opinion on a topic that doesn't have to do with acting is 100% completely okay, and they do not need your permission to talk about it.
Yes. And get in the ring.
Yeah. Like,
right? It's easy to be the critic from the bleachers, right? Get in the ring.
Like if you looked at me, would you know I'm taking a online Harvard course on neuroscience right now, right? Because
I love that.
Take artist and they see actor. So I think a topic that I talked about with Angie last week, I don't know if you caught that one, is people tend to judge people. It's like a built-in thing in us, and that you need to understand that you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So maybe take a step back and don't judge somebody negatively before you know. Ask questions.
Yes. Staying curious. I think the two flaws of the human brain, speaking of neuroscience, although it's designed to protect us, right? Our brains have, and I'm sure you know this, the negativity bias.
Yep.
Right? So for every one negative, you need 9 positives to outweigh the trauma or the terror that gets stored in your nervous system, right?
Yeah.
So when you think about that, because our brains are hardwired that way to safeguard us, we also, the unfortunate thing is, we automate people. We think we know someone. We start putting people into categories. We're racking and stacking. You know, where do they fall on the hierarchy?
Yeah.
And then we're not making generous assumptions. We're making quick judgments, snap judgments. And when you start to make snap judgments, you're really actually operating from criticism and contempt. You're not operating from curiosity.
And usually the judgment making has more to do with you as a person than the
It's so true. It's so true. It's almost always a projection of your own shit.
Yeah.
It's almost always your own shadow getting all wonky and triggered. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. I took a coaching program last year. I don't know if you know Jim Fortin. Incredible individual. I highly recommend checking him out. He's got an amazing podcast, but he's the one who got me turned on to brain science. I took his course, a huge focus on neuro-linguistic programming, brain for success. And then I loved his course so much because it helped me so much get out of my own crap and out of my own way, that I started taking the neuroscience courses, because the brain is such an interesting thing that affects us so much. Like a lot of people don't even know that your brain makes a decision on what you're going to do 7 seconds before you actually do it.
Yes, I know this. Oh my gosh. I remember the first time I learned that, just being like,
yeah.
You
actually have to stop and go, I am the thinker of my thoughts. That's a quote from Jim.
Totally. Yeah.
And I can choose to think any thought I want. And a lot of people don't take the time to sit back and actually think that I can actually think anything I want to think. So they don't change the story. They don't reframe what's happening to them. They don't go, okay, well, so-and-so said it has to be this way, but it doesn't actually have to be this way. I can tell myself any story I want, because the brain doesn't know the difference between reality and what's not reality, right? So you can reprogram your head to think any story you want and be successful. And those are the people that you see are like the exceptions to the rule, where so-and-so, where an industry says you have to do it this way, and this person was the exception because they didn't fall into the trap of the story.
I love this so much. Two things, because I think it ties into what we were talking about earlier. Again, if you're watching the replay, if you're just joining us now, we're talking about pivoting and all the things that set you up to pivot well, and all the things that really will hurt that pivot or make it much more complicated and painful. We were talking about environment earlier, and you were in the very fortunate but rare situation where you can say, man, I got the best family. Like, everybody gets that this is my life. It's my choice. I'm the one that's going to have to handle the consequences. So they let me be. That's a beautiful thing. It's also a rare thing, right? Yeah. And so when we talk about these mindset, sort of, I don't want to say hacks, but the power of mindset, right? I think we have to also recognize and link mindset's much easier when you're in an environment that supports, right? And yet, what do you do? And I've had this experience so many times where my environment was absolutely not conducive to me having a healthy mindset. It was counterproductive to me having a healthy mindset. And so then when we're talking about environment, we have to distinguish. It's not only just your external environment, because sometimes you don't have that fortune. Sometimes you're not that lucky. Right? Sometimes you got to pull it up from your toes alone in a dark room with no money, nobody's around, nobody's buying into your dream. There's doubt dealers on every corner. And you still got to find some resolve. You still got to find that resiliency. And then it's really the internal mindset. And I think, studying mindfulness practices, practicing meditation, practicing yoga, this is, again, something I was talking about in that book on resiliency. I share when I hit a really tough patch, the three pillars that kept me standing, if you were to think about like a stool, like the three legs of the stool, were meaningful relationships, daily movement, whether I wanted to or not, and a daily mindfulness or meditation practice. And I was sharing that, we think meditation has to look a certain way. We think we got to sit in like a lotus position and have blank minds for 45 minutes. That's not true. There's so many ways to meditate. We think that movement has to be epic and athletic, and it has to be very structured in a certain way. No, you just got to move your body. That could look like dancing in your kitchen, right? That could look like a stretch at night. That could look like a trail run, whatever it is. And meaningful relationships, I can't stress enough, particularly now when everything's gone remote and everything's virtual. And particularly for those who, like me, had a season where suddenly they were on their own. There was no supportive roommate or partner or, even I think about this sometimes. I don't have children. And, one of the things that I've noticed a lot when I go to conferences and see big speakers and they tell their sort of before and after story, they often at the end will throw a photo up of their families, their wife, their husband, their children. And they say, I do it for them. And as someone who doesn't have children and is no longer married, that's a real tender spot. And even that was an edge for me that I had to learn. Again, talking about mindset. And talking about when you can't control the outside environment, you got to find some way to control the inside environment. I had to make some new meaning because I no longer had a husband to do it for. I no longer had the vision of children to do it for. It was like, oh, I got to do it for me. When nobody's bought in, nobody cares. I'm by myself. It's not sexy. It's not fun. I'm exhausted. I'm terrified. And I still got to find some reason to do it. And I just want to say that to anybody who, again, might be listening now or on the replay. I don't want you to count yourself out if you're like, well, I don't have a husband. I don't have kids. I don't have a family. I don't have money. I don't have, great mindset. I don't have the ability to work out. I don't, people will count themselves out. And I used to do this too. And you just can't do it because those outliers, like you were talking about, those people that defy the odds, they did not count themselves out.
Yeah. And I think the other thing to touch on there is you have to learn not to let your external circumstances affect your internal environment, right? And you can't let your circumstances make you the victim of what you want. So if you have no money, figure it out, right? There's so many things you can do online right now that might not earn you a crap ton of money, but it'll get a foot in the door. And I think when we become victim to our circumstances, we're letting ourselves give our power away to that thing that's affecting us, right? We have to stop giving our power away to the fact that we have no money. We have to stop giving our power away to that person that said we can't do this, and realize that we need to take our power back, stop letting us affect us, and just figure our crap out and take the first step. And we may not get from A to Z at the beginning, but at least we can get maybe to B or C or D, right? And we can get as far as we can go at the current moment.
I think you made two really important points there. I just burped. I don't know if you all heard that. Excuse that. We're gonna edit that out. Oh wait, we can't, guys. Oh well. That's what happens. I drink LaCroix like all damn day. That's why. Okay, so I love that you said you just gotta. I would say like you just gotta do the next right thing. You do not need, nor should you even bombard your nervous system or your beautiful little brain with figuring out the next 1,000 steps. You just got to figure out like the next 2. And then it's literally like rungs on a ladder. You know, it's like you get strength, you get conviction, you get energy, you get confidence through just getting up that next rung of the ladder. And by looking down and being like, oh, damn, look at how far I've gone. You know, look at how I'm still going, right? And just keeping it simple, stupid, really, really small. And again, I think it's important also what you said. Yes, we cannot allow ourselves to hemorrhage out all of our power, right? And lose all of our sense of self because someone else or something else maybe interrupted our path, maybe threw us off course. And yet, I also think it's important. Too often, particularly in personal professional development and even in wellness communities, there's this shaming and this spiritual bypassing that happens. If you do not allow yourself to grieve, if you do not allow yourself to embrace the suck and be like, you know what, this is a bad situation. This is not what I wanted. It's not fair. I feel in the belly of the beast. I don't know where to start. I'm scared, I'm sad, I'm embarrassed, I'm exhausted. If you skip over that and you try to easy button your way out of it, either by spiritually bypassing and being like, I'm not going to be a victim, I've got it, you know, mindset, that's not going to help you, right? Because that stuff will still be in your nervous system and it will come back, right? Or if you try to easy button it out by eating over it or drinking over it or shopping over it or dating over it, and you just think, well, I'm going to skip over this whole grieving piece. It will come back, and it'll come back like tenfold. So I think it's important. Don't allow yourself to be a victim, yes, but you can also say, hey, I have been victimized. It sucks. It hurts.
It's not about ignoring your feelings. It's about not letting them continue to affect what you're after, right? Grieve, be mad, but then pick yourself up and get back in the game, right?
It's easier to do that with good people, right? And good conversation. Right? And good motion.
Big, right? Like, because nobody's going to be motivated every damn day. Nobody's going to have those people in their corner every single time they're doing something. You need to have your why big enough and in your face. Like, write it on a sticky note, put it on a mirror, put it on your screensaver of your phone. Like, have your why front and center every day so that you see it.
I love that. I would say too, because I was sharing earlier, you know, sometimes your why is going to pivot. Not only is the way that you're going to show up or the pursuit that you're going to have or the people and projects that are going to be around you, the places that you're going to be, not only are they going to pivot, but sometimes your why is going to pivot. Like I was sharing, my why had to change because I no longer had the future that I thought I was going to have. And that can be a really sobering, really arresting time in between, because you're in the no longer, but not yet. And it can cause a dark night of the soul. It can cause an existential crisis. You can feel a complete identity shattering, a life annihilation. And you can think, well, what is my why? I have no freaking idea. And what I would say then, as you're coming up with this beautiful practice, and I've done this too. I used to have Post-its all over my mirror, literally all over my mirror. Now I have big, giant, you know, like those Post-its? Those yellow Post-its, but they're giant, right? And I have essentially what Brendon Burchard would call like a battle board, just all over my house, right? And that's how I project manage, and that's how I promotionally plan. I do that in Asana. But I was going to say, if you're in a no longer but not yet, and you're like, I don't know what my why is. She's talking about putting up a why post-it everywhere. I don't have a why. Your why is to figure out what your why is.
Yeah. Yeah. My why I keep going is because I want to leave this planet better than I found it. That is my why. So that's not going to change no matter what I do. But no matter what career I go into, my goal is to leave this planet better than I found it.
I love that. I love that you said with such conviction, like a stake in the ground, like no matter what happens, that doesn't shift. That doesn't change.
Yeah.
I know for me, I had to use my future self, like 50-year-old KJ wants to have some things in her life, some people in her life, some experiences in her life, some of which I have and some of which I don't.
Yeah.
And so 50-year-old KJ needs 41-year-old KJ to show up a certain way.
Yeah.
To do things that I don't want to do, to say things that I don't want to say, to have things that I've maybe never had or that I had and I want again. Right. And so sometimes it's the legacy that you want to leave is your why. It's like, I want to leave the world a better place. And sometimes it's in combination with, I want to have a better life experience. I want to feel more satiated. I want to feel more transparent and radically honest. I was saying, you know, right before I hopped on here with you, when I was sharing, hey, I'm about to go live, I was saying, you know, one of the beautiful things about pivoting and pivoting with celebration, not pivoting like, oh God, this is horrible, but pivoting and finally owning your outgrown is what I would say. Finally recognizing, like, I've outgrown this person, I've outgrown this place, I've outgrown this project, and it's okay. When you do that and you allow yourself to be arms wide open and excited and not necessarily know, you also get to then start again, start over without starting fresh.
Yeah.
Right? But this is the real kicker. You can look at what didn't work. What about you didn't work? What about the environment didn't work? What about the way you were going about it didn't work? And you can say, all right, now I get to actually redesign this whole thing.
Yeah.
I can do this entirely differently, and I can be more transparent. This is what I was saying before I jumped on here. You know, part of being who you really are is being able to say, like, you know what? I'm all shades of things.
Yeah.
You know, I'm an artist, I'm an advocate, I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I can be really lazy. I can be really, really productive. I can be funny. I can be really, really tender. I can be all of these different things. And the more that you allow yourself to just be yourself, then you don't feel like you're hopping on camera or you're hopping on stage or you're hopping on the podcast and you're like turning something on.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, this is no different than how I would be talking to my friend if my friend called me. Right?
Yeah.
That's such ease.
Like this, like behind the scenes information, this coffee chat out of the blue, right?
Right.
I had no plans on doing this coffee chat this year. I was talking to my best friend Leanne. I'm like, I should do an Instagram live segment. How should I do this? I'm going to start a coffee chat. And within 10 minutes, I had implemented it. And like, here's the first one, Leanne. You're coming on as my first guest. Right?
I love what you said there, because you close the gap quick.
Yeah. And I think sometimes we need to do that. We just need to take action. And because I'm being myself, because I know I want to make an impact. I know I want to share these incredible people I keep coming across with the rest of my people on here. I'm like, this is now a way I can do this. And I implemented it. I'm like, here's me starting to make an impact. Here's me being myself. Here's me living my why, right? Even if I impact one person, I've left the world a better place.
Right.
Yeah.
You've left your world a better place because you're being more authentic and true to you. You feel more self-expressed. I mean, another one of my favorite sort of quotes, and I don't know who said this, but like, don't die with the music still in you. Use your gifts. Yeah. You know, they were bestowed to you.
Yeah. Right? Hamza, I hope I'm not butchering your name. Hamza, tell me if I'm butchering your name. What is impact? So impact means that we're changing something. We're either, what's the best way to describe this? So if I'm talking to individuals, say, about my past eating disorder, right? And I talk about my struggle and something I say helps them get past that, that's me creating an impact because I've now helped somebody get past the same thing that I was going through.
Right?
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful description. Yeah. Good change. Exactly.
Yeah. We have about 10 minutes left. I'm just going to pop through the comments. I know there's some people remind me of my mistakes. What do you think about them? So do you have anything to, yeah.
I have so many things. I have so many things, my dear. I don't know who asked that question. Number one, before we hop off here, y'all should get on my text group because I share a lot of behind the scenes, but also tips and tools and tactics and strategies and stories. So that's 310-356-9839. And we can deep dive onto this a little bit more if you want to ask a follow-up question. But I will. Perfect. Yes. But whoever asked that, if you want to ask a follow-up question, text me that number. I'll text you back. We'll have an actual conversation. Here's the thing. A mistake is only a mistake if you don't A, forgive yourself, and B, want to do better and then try to do better.
Yeah.
And share that learning with someone else.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two, again, we were talking at the top, if you're just joining, go back and watch the replay. We were talking at the top or the earlier portion. Unfortunately, our brain, because it's wired to look for danger, will start to automate people. And people who knew us at a certain season of our life or stage of our career or in a certain dynamic or environment may automate us and arrest us in that season of life, that stage of career, that environment, that dynamic. And so they might be recalling something that may have been true in that moment that is no longer true.
Yeah.
And so then number three, my friends, listen up. This is when you say, allow me to reintroduce myself. I don't think that you know who I really am or what I'm really about. So let's start over.
Yeah.
Right. And again, if you get on that text chain, if you're on Clubhouse, I'm doing a lot of weekly Clubhouses. I want to get you on. I don't have any more invites. We got to get you on.
The wrong cell number. I'm like, no.
Yeah, we'll find somebody who's got an invite. We'll get you on. But one of the exercises that I do with my pivot performance strategy coaching clients is we find all the evidence. We have what's called a proof journal.
Okay.
So when your confidence gets kicked in the teeth, which is going to happen to anyone who's putting themselves in the ring, you go back on the hunt for all the times that it worked out. For all the times that you rose above, for all the times that you absolutely should not have gotten the job, gotten the guy, gotten the part, gotten the opportunity, but you somehow made it work, right? And that builds those resiliency muscles. And then it's about training your brain to find the evidence and the proof of the times that you were on your game, that you did something that you felt in integrity with, that you were your best self, as opposed to belaboring and harboring on the times where you maybe made an error, right?
This is a chance to reframe that story of mistake. It's not a mistake. It's a lesson. Everything in your life is either a lesson or a blessing, right?
I love that.
So stop thinking them as mistakes, thinking of them as lessons, and then they're going to stop impacting you in a negative way. Like, that wasn't a mistake. That was a lesson I needed to learn to get me to here, right? So reframe the story in your brain. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And again, going back to that idea of making generous assumptions, right? Sometimes our brains are so panicked. I mean, I know I've had this experience. I don't know if anybody watching has had this experience. I can't imagine I'm the only one. Where I have shrouded myself in shame. I've just done a whole shame spiral because I've thought everybody hates me. I messed up so badly. No one will love me. No one will accept me. No one will understand. It's over. And it's not true, right? So it's also being on guard for the part of our brain that, again, is just inaccurate. Just flat out inaccurate. So it's giving yourself grace. It's making generous assumptions with other people that the projections you're putting onto them, that they hate you, that they don't respect you, that it's all over for you. Those are not generous assumptions, right? They're not going to serve you, and they're also not going to serve those people who you might be casting
Yeah.
and assigning that attitude on that might not actually be their experience. They might have moved on. They might love you in totality. They might think, hey, it's not actually that bad.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's another thing. If you get into a spiral of horizontal thinking, and when I say horizontal thinking, you can't see the light, right? Like if this is a good analogy that Jim Fortin gave me. If you're at ground level right here, all I can see is what's directly in front of me. So I start spiraling these horizontal thoughts that compound one upon one upon one. But if I go to the top of the building, I can see possibly the sea in the sky. I can see down below. Like I
love that.
A different level of thinking. So we need to get out of that horizontal thinking. And the way we do that is we stop and we think, I am somebody who has the capability of thinking thoughts. So I can choose to think a different thought right now, retrain our brain to stop the spiral of horizontal thinking. So every time I get into horizontal thinking, and I'm not to say I don't do it, I do it, but
yeah, it's human.
I can catch myself quicker now. I'm like, whoa. This is what you're currently doing right now. Recognize the behavior that you're currently doing. You're in horizontal thinking and you're crapping on yourself, and go, okay, wait. I am a human. I can think thoughts, and I choose to think something different right now. Yeah.
I love that so much. It makes me think of, again, that visual of the ladder or a spiral staircase. I've often used that visual. It's the same kind of idea. It's like sometimes in life you will circle back to the same lesson. Yeah. I know I've had to learn the same lesson a few times. Not gonna lie. But it's at a different vantage point.
Yeah.
Right? Because as you go up that spiral staircase, now you're at a different perspective. And the bounce back times are quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The learnings are quicker. The grace hopefully can come quicker.
Yeah.
The catching and challenging and changing, whatever it is, can come quicker. Yeah.
And when
this has been so fun.
I think the last thing I want to leave people with, when you're starting to implement these things that we're talking about, be kind to yourself, because I think it takes at least 10 times for your brain to start forming a new pathway to create a new habit. Okay. It takes 31 days, I believe, for it to start to fully form that pathway for that new habit. And if you relapse by chance, because your old habit is more pronounced than your new habit, right? So it's easier if you go back to that old habit to get back into that old habit. So you have to stop doing that old habit and just keep doing the new one so that that brain pathway becomes stuck. It's not, these changes we're talking about aren't instant. And that's with societies that a lot of things need to be instant. This isn't instant. This takes repetition, because that's how you learn the current habits you have now. You repeated the process. Things kept happening to you that got programmed into your brain that this is how things have to go. So
think about it like this. Think about when a baby is first learning to walk.
Mm-hmm.
When a baby is first like wobbly and clunky and like barely able to get their strength in their legs up, we look at them with like joy and reverence, and we think like, oh my gosh, they're so cute. They're like bumbling and it's so adorable, right?
They keep trying.
Somehow we forget as adults that when you are implementing a new habit or strategy or thought pattern, it is no different. You are going to be bumbling and fumbling. It's going to feel really awkward. Your legs are going to be tired. You're going to want to fall down, and then you're not going to want to get back up, right? But again, going back to the power of energy, the power of engagement, the power of environment, those are the three pillars I talk about all the time. It is easier to start those new habits. It's easier to get those better neural pathways lined up when you're just in good company, meaningful conversations, moving every day, and having some sort of mindfulness, grace practice with yourself.
Hanging out with negative people, you have permission to spend less time with them or not spend any time with them at all. Even if they're family, if that family member negatively impacts you, then limit the amount of time you spend with that family member, right?
Well, because this is the thing too. Sometimes it's the dynamic. It's the exchange that there's something off. It's not that person. One thing that I definitely, there is a very small percentage of people who are actually toxic. Toxic, that word is getting thrown all over the internet, and it's really harmful to humanity. It is a very small percentage of people who are actually diagnosably narcissistic, borderline, bipolar, sociopathic, pathological, right? Very small percentage of people that are toxic. That does not mean that there aren't dynamics where there's just no life. And I always say, I don't believe in blowing up your life. I think too often people feel uncomfortable, they feel bored, they feel lonely, they feel stuck, and they make an impulsive decision that cannot be undone.
Yeah.
That is tremendously painful, right? As opposed to slowing down, to speed up, to start to look at that person again, to start to talk to that person again, to lean into, okay, what's really going on here? Why are we so off? As opposed to being like, I'm going to go get a better job. I'm going to go get a better guy. I'm going to go get a better house.
Yeah.
Right? Because so often you bring yourself wherever you go. Wherever you are, there you are. Right? So I just want to make that caveat because yes, absolutely. There are those, and I am a survivor of domestic violence. So there are absolutely those people where you need to leave. And there are hotlines and support systems. If you need that, reach out to us. We will help you. You got to go. But it is a small percentage of people that you need to absolutely categorically cut out of your life. And I think sometimes the stronger, more mature, kinder, and actually better thing, even for yourself, you know, pivoting is not about running away. Pivoting is about really having discernment and making an intentional choice and being agile and nimble, right? Sometimes it's a 2 millimeter shift and consistently that changes the trajectory of your life, right? It doesn't have to be that like you blow up everything and you abandon ship and you bail on people and that's suddenly going to make everything better. So often it doesn't.
Yeah. That's awesome.
This has been great. I don't know if we're over our time. I want to make sure that we get the replay and that we share that.
Yeah.
So much goodness.
So I will post all of KJ's contact information below this video, as well as timestamps. It won't be immediately because I have to go through the video and put all the timestamps in. But later today, when you're watching the replay, there'll be timestamps below this video if you want to skip to specific topics. And there'll be all of her contact information below there that you can contact KJ to learn more about pivoting and performance. And thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
So great. We're going to have more of these. You don't realize. You're now in the world. So I'm going to be connecting you to a lot of people. That's kind of what I do. And I'm going to be talking with you and we're going to get you on Clubhouse somehow. Yeah. We're going to do it. Okay.
For all of you for hopping on.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
This is so great. I just wanted to read some of the chats. What were we saying?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kj. It's awesome. That's very nice. Much to take away, this chat to think about and put into practice. Oh, I appreciate that so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was somebody else had commented way back. I know I saw it pop up. I'm just going to scroll back really quickly before I hop off because the chat doesn't save. Thought reading the mug. KJ, you need to be the next Oprah. You're so freaking cute right now.
All right. Thank you. I'll take it.
I wish you were more movies. You're deep and mature, self-learning. I wouldn't be able to sell your cakes. I've seen them. I'd eat them first. Thanks, Gavin. I think that's it because we already answered that one question. Yeah, well, thank you guys so much. The replay will be posted right after this, and I will update the description later today. And yeah, we'll talk to you all in the next coffee chat.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, friend. See ya.
Bye.